Hello everyone and welcome to our next vlog for Raging Heroes, the Heroes Infinite 3D print stuff. So for this month they are doing Pirates Curse of the Dead Sea, and this is my Overlord tier that we're looking at. So as usual we're going to be picking something from this really good range of characters which are all here. Got some really cool designs on there, I'll show you in a moment. Got some interesting monsters. Got some troops, and we have a little bit of scenery as well. So let's have a look at our characters, because we're going to pick one of these and we're going to get them get it printed. So let's just open all of them, because why not? Because Shay and I were checking these out and they have some really interesting designs. Keep going. I have a feeling I'm going to like that one. And this one at the bottom. So we have stuff like what is more typical of Raging Heroes. We've got our female characters here that are doing something cool. We've got lots of detail there with Jill Kylefin. Okay. She's quite cool. Then we have this guy who is basically Davy Jones but ramped up to, you know, 1 million. Not as tentacly in the face though, which is nice. Check this guy out. We have Yakazar Sharkman Champion. That's pretty badass. Next, this is would be one of my finalists for printing this month, because what's her name? Jalayala. No, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. I do apologize. Cool big jellyfish kind of person. We have our Velgard the Greedy, Ghost Captain of the Gold Fools. He's kind of cool as well, sort of very spectre-y, kind of like Night Hunt kind of thing. In fact, this would be quite good for a Night Hunt army, this guy. Next, how many hooks do you want on your pirate? I think all of them in this case. So she has hook legs, 1 hook arm, and she's carrying a spear. Moving on. Oh, that's her again. This is definitely one of my favorites. Please, Raging Heroes, change these names a little bit. I'm not going to try and pronounce it, but this model is really epic. She's got a nice big centerpiece feel to her with all the sails and everything up behind her. And you see, sort of your seafaring barbarian kind of guy here, Braco, the Bone Crusher. Lots of chain detail there, very cool. Big anchors and muscled beyond anything, almost a Hulk. Yeah, he's almost kind of Hulk-esque. And lastly on our characters, Craverius, Ship Surgeon. I think this guy's hilarious because of the little dude on his shoulder with the big ears. He's kind of fun. However, we're going to pick one, and then we're going to get it 3D printed. So I think this time around we're going to go with Yakazar, because there's always been a joke in here about Sharkmen and sort of half shark, Sharknado and stuff like that. They're all big memes and jokes in the office. So we're going to go with this guy. And as per usual with Raging Heroes, we can get either an unsupported file or a supported file in STL format. So I've gone and downloaded the supported STL file. If we come over to this monitor, we can see our files here. So we have the base and the model itself, plus a couple of pictures as well, because reference images are handy. Then as usual, like last time, we opened CheetuBox and dropped it into CheetuBox just to have a look around it and place it on the bed for our Mars 3. We're just going to go with supported this time around. We tried the unsupported last time, and honestly, the way these are orientated and set up for printing, pre-supported files are far superior to what I can do with my own skill and my own understanding of the Slicer program. So from there, we've saved this out onto our flash drive, which is now currently plugged into the Mars 3. So we're going to take the camera and myself and the cameraman who is tripping over stuff out, and we're going to go and set the printer up. So we'll just come this way and get our Mars 3 running. If any of you guys haven't watched the first video, I do recommend you go back and watch that first vlog. You'll get more detail on the setup of the 3D printers. However, our Mars 3 is here, switched on, we're ready to level our bed. So at the minute, these two pieces are unscrewed, which allows our bed to freely move around. What we're then going to do is set to the home position, which drops the bed to the lowest possible point that the arm can do. After that, we then need to adjust a few other bits here, and then it's almost ready to print. So we'll just let it do that. And what I'm going to do is make sure that's square and hold it there. The bed's then going to settle back down again, which it's now done. And because I've laid, as I've said in the previous video as well, this sheet of paper is now square to the whole build area, what I can do is orientate the bed itself to be square with that piece of paper. And we can double check that everything is lined up correctly. That seems fine. What we then need to do at this point is tighten these up so that our bed is secure, because we don't want this to be moving around during the printing process. So once that's set, we then need to figure out how much resistance, how much space is underneath the bed. So at the minute, that's okay. There's a bit of resistance moving the piece of paper around. If I wanted to change it, I'd be going to my 0.1 motion, drop it down 1 and see if that has increased. That might actually be a bit better. So if I'm happy with that, what I then need to do is back out of here, set this to the 0 point, which tells the printer this is the lowest point I need to be to create a layer. So we'll confirm that. We'll back out, and we'll take our flash drive with our Sharkman in it, plug it in, let that settle. We haven't made the bed ready to print yet, so we're going to go back to Tools, Manual, select our 10mm and go up about 10 or 12. So up about 12. We can then remove our piece of paper and get ready to install our bed, which we have from the last print, which was the last Raging Heroes vlog. We have removed the resin, cleaned it all out, and it's now ready to go again. So slide that in, put our 2 retaining screws in, there's a lot of thread on those, so they do take a fair bit of movement. Then get our resin, give it a shake. People keep saying don't shake this stuff up, but it actually recommends you on the bottle that you do. Now this print's going to take about 10 hours and roughly about 30 milliliters of resin. However, we're not too worried about that. We're going to be letting this print run overnight. So I want more resin in here than I really need, just to make sure in case there's any time delay or anything like that. Sort of just having more resin than you need just feels a little bit better. So with the resin in, we'll go back to the home screen, print. Again, we should see our files all come up. We have the one called Sharkman. That shows the file. Press play. Once that's started to run, remember to put your fume cover back on. If you're in a room that had any windows or any access to sunlight, this also acts as a UV filter as well, so the resin doesn't accidentally activate when you might have actual daylight shining on it. From this point, the printer is going to do its thing. It's going to take about 10 to 11 hours this time, so it's going to run overnight. So we're going to take a little swish, and when we come back, the printer will be finished and we'll be ready to extract our miniature. So our print is now finished, and it has taken 12 hours, 39 minutes, so almost 13 hours. As I've said before in the last vlog, and I think I maybe mentioned it here, the machine kind of underestimates as well as the slicer program. So it depends on what parameters you have set for the machine. You know, how long does the bed rest when it reaches the top of its withdrawal? I have it set to about 1 second just to let the motor stop for a minute before it goes back down again. All those little parameters aren't included in the estimated time that the machine gives you and the slicer gives you. So if you have settings done to let the motors rest for any length of time, it obviously adds to the amount of time that the printer is going to be running for. But we're done anyway. It's taken nearly 13 hours. So let's switch her off. So let's just confirm that and switch the machine off, so I'm not listening to the whine of the fan all the time. Elegoo, if you're watching, or if there's anyone watching from those companies, please make the fan go idle after the print is done. unless you have a firmware update I'm not aware of. Anywho, let's take the bed off and let's have a look at our little guy. So he's a lot thinner than I expected. He is actually quite thin, quite lanky. Oh well. So let's get him off the bed. So we'll come over here and put him down here and get our good old scraper tool and just liberally apply a bit of force. There we go. Pretty easy. And what I do after each of these prints is done is just run the scraper along those areas. Not only is that removing excess resin, but it's also making sure that there's no little bits of resin stuck to our bed. So once we clean that, it's ready to go again. Now, yeah, this all looks pretty decent. So what I have here is, like in the last vlog, I've got some hot to warm water with some of my degreaser in there. If you're American, use Simple Green, and it's just a case of dropping them in. We'll let them sit for a while because I want to work on cleaning the printer out now that we're done with it. So this is something I didn't cover in the last vlog, mainly because I was kind of a bit more pushed for time. But once the printer's finished and you're staring at it going, I have to clean this thing out, we're going to do that now. So the first thing is to remove our bed. And we take this little device here, which is just a metal funnel. Metal because it's easy to clean, and because it also has a little sort of particulate filter in the bottom of it, which is also removable. Our first stage then is to lift our bed off, check for any leaks or any problems, because sometimes the FEP will get punctured if you've not set your parameters right. You can damage the film, and it does wear over time as well. So check the screen for any leaks or any weird things that are on it. But that one looks okay. So then it's just a case of doing the most laborious part of the print clean, pouring our excess resin back into our bottle. So this is going to take a good few minutes because it drains quite slowly. But this leaves us with plenty of resin to keep working with. We're not losing a lot per print, so long as the print is okay. Once this gets drained, and the flow is quite slow as you can see there as well, it does take its time, but it allows us to save a lot of material that we would otherwise have wasted. So this is a case of standing here, unless you happen to have a clamp or something where you can just hold the bed like this for a couple of minutes. What I tend to do is let it drain down to the point where I can place the bed on the sort of an angle and just let it all drain and take its time, really. After that, I do go in with warm water, a bit of degreaser, and a brush, and clean the FEP film and make sure there's no resin sort of gathering around it anywhere. So let's see if we can prop this up. Shay noticed me doing this before and was like, oh, this is so professional. And I was like, I know. And now that it's on camera, this is going to be the time I get it wrong, and things are going to fall over. Just wait a minute. I know Shay's getting nice and close to this to watch my failure happen in slow motion. Yeah, there, we're good. We're good. So we can let that drain for a while. While that's draining, we can move back to our miniature. Move all this rubbish out of the way for now. And this water is hot and I do have gloves on, so it's going to hurt even more for me. So it's just a case of getting our little brush and just starting to scrub, because the degreaser will get in underneath the uncured resin and lift it away from all the stuff that is cured. And it's just a case of doing this for a while, and then what we could do while the model's still warm is start to remove supports, because once they're warm, this resin becomes very rubbery and all our supports sort of tend to just kind of peel away without too much damage. And it's kind of it's not an exact science to do this carefully. It's just a case of having done a few prints and
feeling the parts giving way and letting go. So he's also quite a complex shape, so it's going to take a little bit of fidgeting just to slowly work all our supports away from the miniature. We can take the broken stuff and drop it back in there. I know people are going to tell me I'm doing this wrong as well, but I think that was a piece of the model. That looks like a piece of chain, so I'm going to set that to the side. There's spines on his back. And he's almost free. We'll get there, we'll get there. There we are. So there is our guy off all the supports. Not bad looking. So what we need to do here is drop him back in there for a minute or two, and then we can very quickly do the base, which was very easy. So there's something that I didn't do on the last miniature, our steampunk lady. On her base, there was actually places for her feet to stand, but in this case, we actually have a bit of extra base texture there that'll slot in to where his feet are. So we'll put that back in for now, and then we'll bring this guy back out, give him another little wash. But once we think we've washed him to the point where most of the resin is off, it's then time to go into the curing box, which I've mentioned before. I'm not going to show it on this one, but it'll go into the curing box for about half an hour or so. People did say, you know, it shouldn't take that long, but because the lights that we're using aren't specifically made for the likes of nail polish drying and that sort of stuff, the frequency isn't quite right. So it does take a little bit longer with the equipment that I have. Obviously, you can just get better equipment. You can just buy a nail polish drying thing or curing thing, and that's basically it. So I'm going to continue on with this. I'm going to get the model cured, get it assembled, and then put a little bit of airbrush primer down on it. And after that, I will show you the model all done before we move off to the 3 colors up at some point in the future. So here we have our completed model now out of the printer, cured, and with a little layer of airbrush primer on it as well. And the detail is pretty darn stunning, to be honest with you. There's lots of the straps on the back. The teeth turned out really well too, so I wonder if I can get that into focus, see if we can try it. Maybe not, but yeah, there we go. So you can see just how much detail they've put into each of these models, and the pre-supported always seems to be the better option out of the 2 that I've printed so far, at least. And what we have is a nice dynamic miniature, lots of movement inherent in the model, lots of very interesting details, and should be fun to paint. So I think without any further ado, we're going to end this vlog here. And if you have any questions on the setup of the printer or the parameters I'm using on the slicer program, do leave them in the comments. And in the next vlog, which will be August, I think we'll, if you have any of those questions, we'll answer them in that one. But until next time, thanks very much for watching. Take care and see you again soon.